Quite a few emotionally charged issues today. All of them, I'm sure everybody could chime in and we could discuss this for weeks on end. So if I could introduce myself now, my name is Gerard Frillingsdorf. I'm the Cope Sergeant in the 4th Precinct. I've been there since April. Prior to that, I worked the desk in the 4th for a while. Before that, I worked for the Chief of Department. He's the highest paid person on the police department. And prior to that, I worked in communications for 7 years. 13 years before that, I worked in Huntington as a Cope officer, on and off, when manpower was required. I worked the second car. And before that, I spent about 3.5 years working for the New York City Police Department, after having left college for that career. Didn't know I wanted to be a police officer. It was a calling from God, I'm sure. And I believe that. I've been dedicating my career to helping people out. I do not like to leave anybody with the feeling that the police are entitled to anything. If you need something and you ask me and I can do it legally, if it's within the scope of my job, I will help you. On that note, if there's anything that occurs in the 4th Precinct, give me a call, ask for the Cope office. If you don't get any satisfaction there, which I highly doubt, ask for the Cope Sergeant. That would be me. And I will absolutely return your call. If you need to sit down and talk to me, we'll sit and talk as much time as we need to help resolve your issue.
So you work with Susan, typically?
Susan is kind of complex. She's assigned to headquarters in the community liaison position. But yet she works in the Cope office and she works for me, although she's not directly under my supervision. So it's a complex issue. It works well because she's very highly competent. If you know her, you know that she's a wealth of information and she has so much energy that she'll go out of her way to take care of whatever business you need her to do. The heroin epidemic, it's a fact. It's a problem. I think it's a complex issue. I don't think anybody could say that if you do this, we'll resolve the issue. Some mention is made about religion, morality, family composite has changed over the years. I can tell you my philosophy and what I believe, and there will be probably 5 other people who will tell you their philosophy and what they believe in. I believe the meaning of separation of church and state is that the state doesn't tell you whether you can believe in a religion or God or what it should be, but maybe the state should be a little more supportive of those that do believe in religion and morality to help keep the family together, because really kids learn not from what you say, but from what they see. And if they see parents popping pills because they want to be a little more sedated, more comfortable, you can tell them don't do it all day long, and they can see what you do and do what you do.
You also said it was not enough police officers in the drug unit. Is that true?
Well, we have a detective assigned from headquarters who works in the 4th Precinct. He is a liaison from the precinct to the narcotics unit. Narcotics is assigned, it's a command unto itself. Narcotics is a very difficult issue to deal with, and they're specialists, they're detectives. And while an officer who might come on a car stop or go to a family incident and see illegal drug use can and will make an arrest, when it comes to long-term or investigations involving narcotics, there are a lot of rules and protocols that should be left to specialists. So the one detective in the precinct who's the liaison gathers information, gives it to our narcotics officers who then disseminate it to those that need it and should have that information. And it's kind of a back and forth work in progress.
So how many narcotics officers are there in
I don't have a particular number. In Smithtown, well,
in the 4th Precinct?
They're out of headquarters. They don't particularly work in the 4th. We have one that is the liaison in the 4th, but we have a whole sub-county police department narcotics unit. And they work everywhere. I mean, because there are no boundaries when it comes to narcotics. Not even between Suffolk and Nassau and New York City, or New Jersey and Connecticut and Suffolk County.
Well, that doesn't sound, to me, as the lay guy, that doesn't sound like a good system. Shouldn't each system? It is a good system?
Yes.
Shouldn't each precinct have its own narcotics little unit?
It runs the risk of information not being shared across boundaries. When you have no boundaries, the whole Suffolk County Police Department sharing information from precinct to headquarters to precinct to headquarters. It removes those boundaries so everybody has access to that information. But you need a set of controls too. You can't have officers taking it upon themselves to do undercover work when it comes to drugs or narcotics. It just is not going to work. So the system is a good system and it does work.
But do they bounce, like, does that unit bounce from the second precinct to the fourth
Where they're
precinct?
needed. They're deployed, they're very mobile and flexible, and they're deployed when they're needed and how they're needed, what the demand is. And I don't even know what exactly goes on because I'm not in the unit. I only know of them and how my end works. We share information with them, we pass information, they assess it, they do their investigations, then they send back to us what we may get involved with, or they'll take it and run with it on their own and do what it is that they do.
So something that always I find interesting is we all in this room can agree that there's a problem, and we know it's at the schools, we know it's on the streets, we know on Friday nights where the kids hang out, and it seems like if we know there's a problem, like how come the police aren't attacking it, like the narcotics unit?
What makes you think they aren't?
Well, let me ask you a
But
question.
are they overwhelmed, I guess is the question, and that was my original question.
Probably has an answer for Dan, but unless I'm mistaken, I understand that there actually is an antidote for people who overdose on heroin.
Narcan.
And do you have the right to ask that once he is revived, or maybe a short time after, where did you get the heroin? Is there a law saying he doesn't have to answer?
No, I'm not really sure about that. I think the police department has taken the position of they're not going to arrest him though he's in possession of drug paraphernalia and the heroin, because him or whoever called on his behalf may less likely call the next time, and he could end up, or she could end up dead because they're afraid to call the police. So we've taken the position that someone who's sick and needs help, and we're going to try to save their life and then hopefully lead them to get help with their drug addiction, as opposed to putting them in jail, which really isn't going to solve a drug addiction because they have, possession.
Well, not necessarily the individual, but obviously someone gave them your narcotics.
Yeah, of course.
It's probably a friend. Well, if not a friend,
Your question is, would we interview them to see if we can find out where they bought it from?
Right.
Of course we would do that. But these issues are delicate. We're not going to put them in such a position where the family members won't call again if they overdose. You're going to end up dying because they decide, I'm afraid to call, you might end up going to jail.
well, so maybe if they tell you that they won't have an opportunity to overdose because they can't get it anymore. Because
We try to cultivate informants every chance we have, every chance we can with regard to that. And we pass that information on to the detective in the precinct, who now gets the narcotic unit involved, and they do their investigation. So it is addressed.
But, yeah, the question came up is that, they'll get rid of the problem, you don't get to deal.
Right.
And, it's just a circle of this.
Before it was mentioned, there's a demand. Supply, demand, and opportunity is a part of an equation. And without one, you won't have a crime. So someone has to have an opportunity, they have to have a desire to commit the crime, and then it will come to fruition. So it's hard to attack every aspect of it. But we need the community to tell us what's going on. We advise and we see what's going on in our own lives and while we're on patrol driving around. But the assistance of the community to call us, call 911, something's not right, something looks suspicious, there's a car parked on an alley where in front of your house at night where normally would be parked. We'll come in and check it out.
As long as somebody wants it, there's going to be somebody who's going to supply it.
And then the guy's gonna take his place.
Yeah, we never
So that goes
learned
back
that
to
lesson with prohibition,
When you come home and you're drinking and taking medications, and people these days, they feel there's no need to suffer. There's no need to take a pill and I'll feel a little better, make everything go away. You just have that mindset. The kids pick that up. They also go to the medicine cabinets. That's why in the precinct we have the mailboxes. You have extra medications. You're done with them. You can drop them off. And they won't end up in the drinking water, and they won't end up in the kids' hands if you want to bring them down. Every precinct has a mailbox. They'll say mailbox. So
Do you get much of people doing that?
quite a few, yeah, quite a few. The only thing is they don't take liquids, which I find a little bit troubling because sometimes people come in with cough syrup that has codeine in it, and they don't take that.
That's strictly narcotics or any kind of?
Anything, any kind of medication that's not a liquid, I think. just so you don't have it laying around for someone to experiment with.
Good.
Thank you.
Anything else?
I got a couple of things popped up, and, oh, I think that was pretty much it, unless you have any questions for me. Yes.
What? Am I correct in understanding that part of the problem with the heroin is that we realized that with prescription pills of barbiturates or narcotic origin, we're having a problem there, so laws were passed to make it more difficult, and the Sinaloa cartel from Mexico decided to cheapen the price of heroin to take up that market share that was lost to people taking pills, and that's partially responsible for the spike. And the demand, that's the clearest thing I heard tonight is, so somebody's willing to pay for something, somebody will come and supply the need. If there was no demand, there'd be no heroin problem.
It's the belief that, and Sula Begley said this the other day, I thought it was a little harsh statement, let's just sit back and look at it. She said alcohol is a gateway drug to heroin. Well, that's a little bit harsh, but some people, when they first start out, they're experimenting with alcohol, and they look for something a little bit more of a kick. They go to the pills and medicine cabinet. After a while, they can't get them anymore because it's not a prescription made out to them. They go on the street, they can buy them for a while, but they become very expensive. So then all of a sudden, heroin's available. It's cheap. It's $5 a bag, whatever it is, and now they can get that better high, longer lasting high, because it lasts 12 hours as opposed to taking some pills. And now they're hooked on that stuff. But the opiates are addictive in themselves. So it's, one steps into the other. But I think there's also more to it. It's a complex issue. It's a philosophy that people aren't willing to withstand any kind of pain. And most people, if you look around, don't deny themselves anything. If they can have it, they want it all now because they're all entitled to it. And just as entitled as anybody else. They want it all now. And maybe that philosophy needs to change. I'm not sure if that's the whole answer.
I got one, you have a
I
question?
just have one question.
Sure.
I live by Mayfair Shopping Center, and across the street in the Mayfair Garden Apartments, many of the neighbors all make complaints because they know that there's prostitution and old drugs and things going on in those buildings over there.
Okay.
Is anything being done about what's going on with those apartments?
I'll look into that. I'm not.
They said there's definitely one building's
Shopping
prostitution, one building is
center.
old
Do you know
drugs.
which building or anything in particular about that? Or would you
All I know
somebody
is the
that
first
shared
and
that?
second building, I think the first one was prostitution, the second one was all drug dealings. And I'm hearing from a lot of the neighbors, and they've made many complaints, and they said nobody does anything. It's really turning into quite a situation over there. And
These are
that,
the buildings right behind the Mayfair Shopping
these are
Center.
the Mayfair Garden Apartments.
And
And these apartments are in the middle of a neighborhood, and the neighbors are very upset about it. And they have called the town
That
many
hasn't
times.
become Section 8 housing, has it? Like
I
low-income
don't
houses?
really know the facts on it, but people told me, well, if you go to the meeting, could you see if there's anything anybody can do? Because, they said it's
I knew a
awful.
family that was in my parish for a while that lived there.
Yeah, it's Mayfair Garden Apartments, all
It's the
those.
first I'm hearing of that, but.
Directly across from Applebee's.
Across,
They're on the
No, not Applebee's.
north side.
No, these
North side
apartments are
Jericho,
right across
North
the
side of
street
Jericho,
from the
there's
center.
a restaurant.
Outback Steak.
Outback.
Outback.
Right across from Outback.
And they said that what's happening is,
across Jericho.
in each apartment, there, many people living in one apartment.
Okay.
And things are getting so out of control, and they never used to be like that, and those apartments have been there for many, many years.
Well, it has to do with the people who own the rentals, right?
Yeah.
Yes,
Right?
My understanding is it's owned
Getting on the
by
landlord's back.
Yes.
He doesn't want to do this.
They are rentals.
They're rentals.
Yeah.
no, they are rentals, but what happens is, it's just turning horrible what's going on
So
over
how
there.
come?
Well, if you can get a group of them to come down to a meeting, we will promise to have the inspector of the police precinct here. And they can bring their concerns directly to the guy who's in charge of the precinct.
You got cars, sure.
Yeah.
What, he has no standing, my friend?
Yeah, I was
Can
gonna say, yeah,
But they'd like to talk to
motion.
They'd
just
like to talk to
I
the guy
ask
who
you, I
runs
ask
the
one
precinct.
question about, like, community patrols? Do you guys offer, like, any training or any,
We do.
anything for,
Yeah,
if we wanted to set up, like, community patrols or
You mean like watching?
neighborhood watches or
Yes,
stuff
we
like
do
that?
We also do lectures. One of my subordinates tonight was lecturing on the social host law at one of the other organizations tonight. We were at the Bar Association last week. We also discussed the social host law. We had Highway come in and do a field sobriety workshop where we had a few people drink and test them before they started drinking and after an hour and so many drinks. And these were students studying to be attorneys. So, we do that, and we can bring in other organizations and build a whole program if you're looking for something really big, or tailor it to whatever needs you have.
Could I call you about that issue and get a response?
You can call me
as to
about
what
any
happened?
issue.
No,
Available for
as to what happened. In other words,
That
I
would
can
be
report back.
terrific, because I've seen
Yes,
such a decline in that complex. It's just horrible.
What's the number I call
You know what, but though, the landlord has to be brought to task.
Yes, he does.
And so
And the whole
it's
apartment
pressure.
complex is
And
falling apart. Everything about it is just coming down. And
Those are also complaints to to Smithtown, to the
the
zoning
people,
board.
the people in that neighborhood call the town constantly, complain and complain. They say they do nothing.
Well, that's one of the issues I have with
Okay.
people in general in a community. I mean, this organization, this room should be packed with people like you who have problems. And if there was 30 people, and this organization had, 700 or 800 people, we could go down to talk to Mr. Vecchio, and he'll make things happen for 700 or 800 people with a complaint.
Right.
But with, only 150 of us.
Well, pass the word on, and I'm
So,
sure they'll come
well, we
out.
need you to pass the word that an organization like this exists and try and get membership. If she gets 5 people to join,
Right.
you get 5, he gets 4, he gets 3.
Right.
And we have 7. When we go to Vecchio, he's gonna listen to the Commack Community Association because that's 700 people in this
no,
organization.
Mr. Vecchio doesn't listen to anything.
Has this issue been brought up before? And
No.
you say that it's been done?
Not as far as I know.
Time.
Okay.
Two things that I've heard about this situation. Number one, it's owned by an Israeli company, so it's foreign owned to start with, and they're very quick to sue you if you don't pay the rent, but they're very slow to make repairs. Number two, the people living there, a lot of them are single men who are alcoholics or drug dependent, and they realize their life is at an end, and they just don't care. And it's hard to,
How do they pay the rent then?
well,
And it's not
Any
cheap.
way they can.
they do what they can, and if they get evicted, if they don't.
That's why
Get some
it's
accurate
turning
information,
so
exactly,
horrible, because
what the
I think it's
address of the property is,
$2,500 a month to live there.
To zone it, home
Now,
it,
the first building,
who's doing what?
if you're at Walbots, and you look across the street,
Yeah.
across Jericho, is it all the way on the left?
Honestly, I can't
The first
say.
building.
All I know is the neighbors that live all right next to that have just said it to me. I'm not gonna say exactly which building.
You haven't seen it firsthand, somebody?
I have not, because I live across the street by the Mayfair Shopping Center, but I know people, my neighbors whose relatives live on that side, next to this complex, and everybody's just, she says the neighbors are all going crazy.
Yes, but
Is there
there,
somebody there that could call me or call the
I-
court office and tell me?
Okay, yes, I know who the woman
They can
is.
remain anonymous, we'll just talk over the
Right.
phone, I don't have to know who
could you
they
give
are. if that
her,
could
you
be
want to
the
get?
issue.
Yes.
Yeah.
He has my number.
Okay, I'll definitely do that, because she knows all the facts. I do not. They just heard I was coming here tonight, and if I could please.
Dennis, it doesn't matter who owns it, they are under the same laws as everybody else, and they should feel the heat. If it,
And they do
They
not.
seem to have a team of lawyers that are really centered on getting the rent, that's what they're interested in.
well, I don't blame
Of course.
somebody getting their rent. I do blame somebody who's not looking out for
If
the
you don't do
renters.
repairs and you don't.
That's
You
right.
you put in a car across the street, so you can go to the activity.
We'll look into what's really happening and, how to.
I talked to the pastor on that side of the road, he's
Street,
having a hard time recruiting.
Like if we wanted to approach the owner and we said, hey, look, we got 700 people here, we're gonna be out front of your place, they'll listen to us.
Right.
Say we got 3 people in our group,
I don't think we need
Right.
to set a country.
Right, neither do
I think when you
They don't know how many people you got in the
Yeah.
association.
You have no idea.
They don't know how many people you
No, we
actually
have-
have in the association.
We got enough
Just
people
send-
to, if we wanted to stand out in front with signs or whatever, or maybe we
Well,
would
let's
invite
take
them.
one step at a time. Let's-
Yeah.
let's-
Right, all right,
let's
just,
make-
I'd like the phone number and we'll go from there.
Right.
Let's assess it and see
Yes.
what's truly
It gets
going on there and
specific.
figure out how to deal with that. That's one of the things we do in COPE is we just don't put a Band-Aid by having a car go over there and arrest the prostitute or the drug dealer and try to figure out where is this emanating from?
Mhm.
And how can we put a fence up, keep them out, contact the owners and explain the rules to them, enforce the rules from the top down. However, we can put an end to a reoccurring drain on our police resources is beneficial to us as well as the community. So that's how we try to deal with it.
In September, it says you can't have, I know in some communities you can't have more than 3 unrelated people who live in your house.
Yeah, they have that in some towns.
That would be a town.
That's a town ordinance, and they do have that, they do have that in Smithtown.
That's for.
Yeah. Right.
Don't forget your.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Yes.
Yes.
To adjourn.
Have a great night. Hey, don't forget,